Hey everyone, welcome to Real Estate Tips and Tricks. I'm Angela Fazio. This is my lovely co-host, Sam Staskall, and we show up every couple of weeks or twice a month, and we bring on a different guest or we share tips and tricks with you to make you better real estate agents. We talk a lot about center of influence because the National Association of Realtors, if I can say association, right? National Association of Realtors has a study that they put out every single year. And it's actually great numbers. If you've never seen the year-end NAR statistics summary, you should look at it as a real estate agent. That makes sense. And one of the things it says is like, hey, how many buyers and sellers say that they would use their real estate agent again after closing on their home? And the statistic is always something like 83, 84, 85%, something around there. And then there's another statistics that says, oh, here's AnnMarie. I'm going to pop her on. She's our guest today. So hi, AnnMarie. So there's another statistic that says only 12%-ish of clients actually use their agent again. So why is there this huge gap? Well, there's this other statistic in the report that says only 4% of real estate agents effectively work their sphere of influence effectively, right? That means they have process and procedure about keeping in contact with their buyers and sellers and past clients in a meaningful way so that when they go to buy or sell again or refer, they'll actually remember their real estate agent. Because that huge gap is because those 96% of agents don't approach their center of influence as a part of their business. They do it haphazardly at best. So today's guest is AnnMarie Johnson. She's a freaking rock star, and I'm not whatsoever. I want to be her when I grow up, basically. So today, AnnMarie is going to talk with us about how do you approach your sphere of influence authentically. So thank you for coming on today, AnnMarie.
Thanks, Angela.
You're welcome.
I can only see you. Is that right?
And Sam, can you see Sam?
Yep. I can. Yeah, no, I can see Sam.
There you go.
Okay. So I kind of accidentally ended up coming up with a system that's been not even a system. It's been kind of some habits and some best practices that I did not know were a thing, and that they just sort of took off. So obviously, starting with Facebook, when I started 6 years ago, like Instagram wasn't really a big thing yet. I think Snapchat was kind of on the way out. So I just started with Facebook, and I've since a little bit journeyed into the other ones. But my age group, I don't know if you know, but the average person on Facebook is 43. So, and I'm 55. So those are my people. And even though they say that may mean for the average to be 53, that means there's plenty of, 20 and 30-year-olds on there. So yeah. What I did was I just sort of talked on Facebook like I normally would. Like every time I close, I take a picture and do a shout out, and I try to tag their friends and say, I'm super happy. And when I very first started, the home and 5 loans were really popular, like the no money down. Mm-hmm. And I ended up, I think, like most agents, just with a lot of first-time buyers. And so I would show the house, and I'd say, if you're paying $1,200 a month in rent, their house payment's $1,140. And most people that I worked with were referrals. Like I was in retail for like 30 years, so most of the people I met were either that I met at open houses or that were referred to me. So that worked really good for a while until the first person got offended that I said no money down because apparently she had borrowed money from family under the guise of a down payment, used it for something else. So that was a super good lesson for me. So after that, I said, hey, do you mind if I tell them how you took advantage of the program? And then 99% of them say no, but if you're doing something shady, then of course the answer is, no. So,
the money.
Yeah. So,
dirty little lawbreaker.
Yeah. I mean, I just tried to, whatever. So it really did, like a picture's worth 1,000 words, obviously. And so I would just start telling the story like, oh my God, we're under contract. And then one step closer. And then after that, I would try to make it a point to just make a reason to talk to them. If their kid was selling candles, I'm buying the candle. If the kid's selling Girl Scout cookies, I'm buying the Girl Scout cookies. If it's somebody's birthday, I'm tagging them for their birthday. Anything that comes up that's important to them. Sorry, my coffee's not staying down. And so I would just really kind of watch what was going on in their life and then kind of be a part of it. And then the other thing, just kind of following that stream that I do is at the end, if they're up for it, I will do a housewarming. And the cool thing is that now all their friends are there, and it's everything from a 1,000 square foot condo to $1 million house with a casita and a huge pool. And I just I can't wait for your people to see this. And if it's their first house, I mean, they're just as excited about the 1,000 square foot condo, and I am too. Those usually way nicer people. And it's kind of fun to have everybody shoved in there, And so what I'll do is I'll have my title company and my lender do a third. So one of the last ones we did was at the end of the summer, and it was a huge house with a big pool and a grotto. So we all put in like $200, took $600 to Costco, bought a bunch of hamburgers and hot dogs and liquor and beer. And then my lender cooked the whole day. And then I just got to work the crowd. In fact, I think I was the first one down the pool slide. And then the title guy does a
video of that.
Yes, I still do it. It's on the highlight reel for 2020.
Okay.
And since it was outside, and he's actually a Gilbert firefighter, and his wife's a nurse, and so it was during the social distance thing, but it was a pool thing, and everybody was out, so it was huge, and it was just so cool because right in the middle of the party, kind of spontaneously, the host said, "Hey, before we get any further, I just want to thank AnnMarie, and if you guys are looking for an amazing realtor," and we got to be pretty good friends during the transaction. I got to be really good friends with his wife, and their kids are adorable. And so out of that, since then, we've gotten 4 purchases, and one was a buy and a sell. So 5 transactions since that was Labor Day weekend. So since September. And again, like-minded people, they were all like super nice. And then as they were going through their process, I would tag the people who I had at the housewarming party, just like, oh my God, like good people know good people. And that it really is authentic. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it really is authentic.
Yeah. I will tell you, AnnMarie, when Chuck and I were selling a bunch of real estate, there wasn't Facebook. That'll tell you how long ago it was. But we used housewarming parties. And another thing that we did that was super effective, and Jennifer, I see your question. We'll get to it. So one thing that was super effective is I used to get a list from the buyers or, before the housewarming party and say, hey, because we take a picture of them in front of their house, right? So we would get a list and we would send out all the invitations. So now we have instant information. So they'd give us all like the address, the phone numbers, the email addresses, and we'd send the invitation out. And then afterwards we would follow up and say, it was nice to meet you. Thanks for showing up or whatever. So that was another way to gather information for the housewarming parties. That was fantastic. And of course, Chuck cooked the food. Surprise, surprise. So the fact that your lender was cooking all day makes such a good impression about how much you care about the people. And that's the whole point of working your database, is just to build relationship, right? Yeah. And another thing that I think is brilliant about what you do with the Facebook is when you show your client's process along the way, people who are watching who maybe are afraid to take that step to go and purchase a home or pursue purchasing a home, you've made that seem fun and approachable by highlighting the steps along the way down the transaction. So that's brilliant.
Thanks, Angela.
Brilliant. You're welcome.
I don't know if you've ever called me brilliant before. There's been a couple other names, but I don't think brilliant was.
Yes, ma'am, there have been.
So on that same lines, one of the other things that is super fun, like this last one, we did one like 3 weeks ago, was a friend of mine. She's been a good friend of mine for a long time. She's in her 60s, and she just wanted to do a girls' night with like wine and cheese. And she just bought a gorgeous house. Her adult daughter and grandkids are living with her. Like we're seeing like crazy. Mm-hmm. And so we went and bought like super good wine. One of the guys that works for me, one of my buyer's agents, is a expert on wine and knows everything about everything. So he picked out the wine and stuff. And again, the lender paid for a third and the title rep paid for a third. And so I just went over, and I would say she had 11 ladies. I think 6 of them I knew, and the other ones I didn't. And it was just, it was kind of unique because it was just really small, and it wasn't, we didn't have music blaring and stuff like that, but it was that all they talked about was the houses that they're in, the houses that they want, like how it is to live with your grandkids, because I think 3 of them were in the same boat. And again, before I left that night, 2 of them had said, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is, they're only going to be in junior high or elementary school for like 10 more years, and then they're not going to care, and they're going to want to be with their friends. And so we actively got one of them under contract like 2 weeks ago, and the other one's still looking. And it's just, and I mean, it sounds contrived, but it really is authentic, because I would have gone anyway. And then the other really important thing is I do a lot, and this lady's included, of work with a church group that I'm part of. And I didn't realize in the beginning that people think, and I'm sure it's possible, that the realtors know a lot about their finances. And so in the beginning, I was finding out that people wanted to use me, but they were afraid that I would find out they're, a deadbeat dad or behind in child support, or they had filed bankruptcy, or they're not tithing or whatever. And I don't think I would have normally found that out during the process. But once I heard that from a few people, I make it a point, especially when somebody's recommending me, I say, just so you know, like, all I have to do is real estate. Like, I barely can keep that straight. Like, I don't want to know what the lenders are up to. I have no idea how title works. And now I can tell them I've worked, I think Ryan added it up the other day. I think we've done over 60 transactions with this specific group. And I'll tell them, like, you see the pictures on Facebook, that we do like a housewarming or we do something. But what you won't ever hear is anything about their finances, because I don't know. And I do specifically tell the lender, like, you're like a priest. Like, nothing should to me about their finances. The only time you need to call me is if they're not answering you fast enough, or something's going to keep the loan from going through because you're waiting on paperwork or something. And it's so funny because I say that now every time. The first time I meet with them, I go, just so you know, and most people are going to go, I don't have anything to hide, but just so you know, I have nothing to do with your finances. I don't know anything about anything, and I'll only call you if you're not getting stuff in fast enough. And every single person goes, oh, no, I don't have anything to hide. I'm like, okay, well, it came from somewhere. So, and especially with church people, because they are just thinking like, oh, they're going to find out I don't tithe or whatever. And they all know each other. So
yeah,
that was probably the most important thing I learned. Just putting that little disclaimer out there. It just puts everybody at ease. And then, they'll say, well, how were you able to get, Kelsey a house? Like, she's a teacher. Like, she got divorced last year. The husband got it all. And I'm like, yeah, she worked it out with a lender. Like, I don't know how she did it, but she has a beautiful house, And of course I know how she did it, but they'll never hear it from me.
That's right.
So,
exactly.
that was such an important lesson for me. And I wish that was in training somewhere, because especially when you're working with family, like when you see your sister's tax records, or, I know what my brother had to do to get qualified or something, they think you're going to tell the rest of the family. And that's why, you hear people say, I can't believe my sister-in-law didn't use me. It's like, that's probably why, because they're afraid other people are going to find out about it. So,
well, if you put that kind of and we're going to have a whole tips and tricks about objection handling, and the best way, in short, to handle objection, if you can, is to answer it before it even comes out of their mouth or pops into their head. And by you putting that out there when you're building relationships with people, it actually not only does it overcome an objection that could be lingering in their head, but it also builds the part of the relationship that's probably the most important, and that's the trust factor.
Exactly.
The trust factor. And that's another thing to keep in mind when you're formulating how you work your center of influence. You have to decide, what am I doing intentionally to build relationship? What am I doing intentionally to build trust? And whether or not they like me is their right? They like you, great,
Exactly. And I think, was there a question?
Yeah, there's a question. So Jennifer, she's in New Jersey, I think. I might have that wrong. Or Pennsylvania. No, she's in Pennsylvania, I think. She's in Pennsylvania, which is just as shitty. Because it's freaking cold right now. She wants to know if you utilize Facebook Live.
I do not, and I should. I mean, I've gone to all the trainings. I remember when what was it called that came out, like Kaboob or something, that everybody signed up for. Is like $1,000 a year or something. I just haven't gotten into the video. The only video I do now is, a lot of times I do a lot of open houses, and a lot of times at the very beginning I'll just tell them where I'm at and show them, like, I do like a million signs with the happy face balloons and stuff. So I'll do like a little snippet of that, but I don't, but I think it's very effective, and I probably should.
Okay, awesome. One of the things that I'll offer to anyone who's listening, if you want, if you're like, I don't even know where to start with working my center of influence, I have a training I can send you for free. Just reach out to me. The other thing is if you want to know anything more about AnnMarie, she's worth getting to know, you can reach out to her directly. She's friendly enough. So tell me, Sam, what do you use for keeping in touch with your center of influence authentically?
I've started sending cards to people. And then I do a lot of Facebook Lives, and that, like, even on my personal page, I'll do it. Like, I did a Facebook Live one day of me walking. I was trying to get 10,000 steps in. So I was interacting with people locally and abroad on my Facebook page, just chatting to them while I was walking. And they loved it, and it was very entertaining that I could keep walking, even though it was freezing, because I was talking to somebody, it was nice. So I think I do a lot of Facebook Live and just stuff through Facebook.
Smart.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at the other platforms. My go-to has always been Facebook, I guess. And I'm below the average age.
Hey.
I'm 42. I'm close.
Ooh, close. Practically a millennium.
Yeah, I'm riding that line there. But yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Wonderful. Okay, so thank you, AnnMarie, for your time today. I know you're heading up north today to a cabin.
I just want to throw in one more thing really quick.
Please do.
When the house sells, what I do is I put in my calendar, like the week before it's going to be a year. So like, the first week in February next year. And I just put it in my calendar. I mean, there's a million follow-up things, but for me, it's just easier. And so I call them, I go, oh my God, can you believe it's going to be a year next year? And especially if it's a new build, which I'll put in like parentheses, because that's when they got to, turn in all their stuff for their warranty for the 1 year walkthrough. And I mean, I'll put it on Facebook, like, man, can you believe it's been almost a year? So it kind of gets it out there again. And then everybody goes, oh my God, like that went so fast, and it starts a whole other conversation. And then they know that I know. They're like, oh my God, you sold so many houses, and you remember that my 1 year anniversary is coming up? I'm like, oh yeah, it's like magic.
The magic of a system.
Yeah. And then just the very last thing I had was just be yourself. A lot of times, especially when we pick marketing, it's like, I don't want something going out. People get it and they're like, you don't talk like that, So, if I know them, I mean, I'm showing up in flippies and shorts and a hoodie. And I mean, I'm literally going up to show houses in the mountains today. And, I dress and I talk like I know them. So just be yourself. And then because you're who they want to work with. And they don't, if I showed up in heels and like a pencil skirt tomorrow, they'd freak out.
I want to see it if you ever do that.
They're like, this is not who we signed up for. It's like, you know what? My check's cashed just fine, and I'm comfortable while I'm doing it. So just be yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I talked with a lady, Timber, just a couple days ago, and she had written me a handwritten thank you note after a meeting or something, which always impresses me. And I wish sometimes I wish I would have that in me. I don't. So I don't even pretend to have handwritten notes in me. I can't write fast enough. And if you handwrite something, you're supposed to be nice, and I'm kind of blunt. So, you don't want to do something that isn't authentic, because you want to attract the people who aren't going to be shocked, because the real you will show up to show them houses, right? So you might as well authentically put yourself out there so that the people that you're attracting, you're happy to work with, and they're happy to work with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no one would ever accuse either of you of being inauthentic. So that's good. All right, AnnMarie, have a safe trip up north.
Thanks, man.
Every, second and fourth Monday, please join us for tips and tricks. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, right. You're in Pennsylvania. You can't wait for anything to start happening. Right?
Did you tell her it's 75 here today, Angela?
I know, yes. So AnnMarie and I are both in Arizona, and it is absolutely beautiful this week in the 70s.
I think it's 1 degree today.
Oh, you got one.
Go out for recess until 0. It has to be 0 or below. Otherwise, I have to go out.
Oh my God.
It was negative 17 last night, so we're warming up.
Woo.
Anybody who's watching, you want to talk with any of us at all, especially if you're in real estate and you don't like where you're working, we are delightful and we would like to work with you. So reach out to any of us if you're real estate agents and you are not working to your potential or you just wish you had more. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Sam. God bless you all. And I'm going to end the broadcast, but don't hop off.
Okay.